Tractate Eruvin, Tractate Eruvin, 10th chapter. The name of the chapter is Motzet Tefillin, and we are learning for Shalema too.
Esther Bat Patya.
Esther Patya, and also for Shalema too, Daniel and Simcha, all those who need the for Shalema, and Eilu Nishmas Chanya Bat Lipman, and Gabriel Yaakov Ben Hirsch. And all those who need Elui Neshama should have Elui Neshama. So, who Sovar, the Gemara gives a Rabbi Chanina's reason for assuming that our Mishnah allows the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Who Sovar, the Sefer Rabbi Meir, Reisha Nami Rabbi Meir. Since the latter clause of the Mishnah represents the view of Rabbi Meir, so the former of the Mishnah, our Mishnah, must also represent the view of Rabbi Meir. The Gemara says, "V'lo yiseifa Rabbi Meir v'Reisha Rabbon." The latter clause of the Mishnah represents the view of Rabbi Meir. The former clause of the Mishnah represents the view of the sages. So it's not Reisha and Seifa, but rather just the Seifa is Rabbi Meir and the Reisha is Rabbon. What is the opinion of Rabbi Meir? The case was the person can stand in the private domain and move objects in public domain, or vice versa, as long as he does not take them beyond 4 ames from the original location. Meaning he doesn't move them more than 4 ames in Reshus Rabbim, public domain. It says about a person should not urinate from private to public and vice versa, and not spitting. And Rabbi Yehuda says, if one's saliva is collecting one's mouth, he is not allowed to walk 4 ames. It's as if it's not, it's left his body already, it's something foreign to his body. So where's Rabbi Meir comes in this picture? We don't see Rabbi Meir in the Mishnah. But your famous statement is Stam Mishnah Rabbi Meir. Stam Mishnah, I mean, if he doesn't say the name, who is it? It's Rabbi Meir. So the Gemara brought Rabbi Chanina. Rabbi Chanina bar Shalmiya taught a person should not stand in Reshus HaYochid and move things in Reshus HaRabim. So that's why he says Shovak Rabbanon V'Orek Rabbi Meir. So Rav said to Rabbi Chanina, you are bend the view of the rabbis and render the law in accordance with the view of Rabbi Meir, whether or not a person may stand in one domain while handling objects in another is a matter of dispute between rabbis and Rabbi Meir. Where is the dispute? So it says the dispute is already in the Mishnah below. The Mishnah that we're going to learn soon, the dispute is there between the rabbis and Rabbi Meir. So it says it's in 101a. We'll get to it. We'll get to 101. That's a dispute. So Rabbi Chanina apparently decides in favor of Rabbi Meir, but the issue is that Rabbi Meir is the minority opinion. So Usova, Rabbi Chanina's reckon in Sefer Rabbi Meir Reisha Nami Rabbi Meir. He thought if the Sefer is Rabbi Meir, the latter part of the Mishnah, then the first part of the Mishnah is also Rabbi Meir. And the Gemara says Veloy, but the Sefer is Rabbi Meir and Reisha Rabbon. So now let's see. Provided he does not take them beyond 4 ames from the original location. Meaning he's allowed to move them, but just as long as he doesn't move them more than 4 ames. But if he did actually take them beyond the 4 ames, he's obligated to bring chatos offering to atone for the violation of the biblical prohibition against carrying more than 4 ames in Reshus HaRabim. Are we to say that this Mishnah supports the view of Rav Dama, Rav Amai, V'Chefetz Tchilas Arba L'Sof Arba, one who passes an object in the Reshus Rabim from the beginning of a 4 amos stretch to the end of the 4 amos, ve'aviro derech olav chayav, and instead of carrying Reshus Rabim, what did he do? He picked it up higher than 10 tefachim. He wanted to carry it to Mokim P'tur, right?
As you said, like this, yeah.
Right. More than 10 tefachim above the ground. He's nevertheless obligated to bring a chatas offering to atone for a biblical violation. Why? Since our Mishnah discusses a case of one who stands on a roof while moving an object in Reshus Rabim, it is reasonable to assume that he only picked it up and put it down in the Reshus Rabim, but in the interim passed it through domain of Mokim P'tur above 10 tefachim. So the Mishnah implies that nevertheless he violates a biblical transgression, therefore supports Rav's ruling. The Gemara demonstrates that the Mishnah does not necessarily support Rav's view. Does the Mishnah explicitly teach that if he took them beyond 4 amos, he is obligated to bring a chatas offering? Perhaps the Mishnah means to imply that if he took them beyond 4 amos, he is actually exempt from a chatas offering. But it is forbidden for him to do so as a result of a rabbinic law. There are those who report that the discussion went as follows. The Mishnah implies, but if he did actually take them beyond 4 amos from their original location in the Reshus Rabim, although he is exempt from a chatas offering, it is, however, rabbinically forbidden for him to do so. Are we to say that this represents a refutation of the view of Rava? Rava said, one who passes an object in Reshus Rabim from Tchilas Dalet, from the beginning of a 4 amos stretch to the end of the 4 amos stretch. And he also carried it in this through Mokim P'tur. He passed it over himself, meaning higher than 10 tefachim, more than 10 tefachim. He is nevertheless obligated to bring a chatas offering to atone for a biblical violation. Our Mishnah, which implies that this is only a rabbinic violation, apparently contradicts Rava's view. Does the Mishnah explicitly teach that if he took them beyond 4 amos, he is exempt from a chatas offering? But it is rabbinically forbidden. For him to do so. Perhaps the Mishnah means to imply that if he took them beyond 4 amos, he is obligated to bring a chatas offering to atone for a biblical violation. Therefore, no proof can be adduced from the Mishnah refutation of Rava's view. The Gemara proceeds to discuss the next ruling of the Mishnah. Person may not stand on a private domain and urinate into a public domain. Amar Rav Yosef, Ishtik v'rog chav chatas. Ishtin v'rog chav chatas. One who did urinate, or what's that word? Expectorate from one domain to another, which is a heavy-duty spit, right?
Yeah, slam.
Heavy-duty spit, okay.
Sometimes you get a call.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And from one domain to another is obligated to bring a chatas offering to atone for biblical violation. How come it's biblical violation? Where is the akira and anacha? So it needs to have you have to have uprooting and placement and dislodgement. Dislodgement is the uprooting, the lifting something up, and then placement. Where is it? Veleika. There's no such a thing when it comes to urinating or expectorate. So veleika, spitting. He says his intent makes it significant area, meaning since he requires that this object leave this particular place, his act of transference from one reshus to another is considered to be a legal significance. Since he requires that this object leave this particular place, so the act of transferring it from one reshus to another is considered to be a legal significance, despite the fact that technically it began from a surface that is less than 4 tefachim square. This principle must be valid. Must be a valid one. If you do not say so, then how are we to explain the following statement made by Rab? Zorak, if one threw an object for Ames and Shusorabim, Zorak. Benoch b'fia kelev b'fia kivshim, and it landed in the mouth of a dog or in the opening of a furnace, and was consumed before ever reaching the ground. Chav chatos, again is liable to chatos. So you took a piece of a hot dog, threw it.
The dog.
In Shusorabim, the dog ran. He caught it in the air, and he ate it. Or it went into a furnace, and it was consumed.
It's the same.
The idea is it's a case where there's no hanacha, there's no placement. It doesn't rest anywhere. So it says he's chayav chatos. The question is why. It says chayav chatos. But we require that the placement of the object be performed on an area that is 4 tefachim square. There's no 4 tefachim in the mouth of the dog. Veleika. And there's no such an area, since the object landed in the dog's mouth or the flames of a furnace. So we see this concept again, that his machshava, his intent, makes it a significant area. Since he had a need for the object to land in the dog's mouth, he wanted it to land there, or the furnace, his act of throwing is considered to be of legal significance. So in our case also, his intent make a significant area, despite the fact that in reality it is less than 4 tefachim square. If one is in the Shusayochi, and the orifice of his organ is in Rishus Horabim. Now, what is the law were he to urinate while in his position? Meaning that he's taking his thing outside, and therefore his thing is in Rishus Horabim. You understand?
I got it.
Now, what is the law? Basar akira azlinan or basar tzir azlinan? Do we go by the dislodgement of the urine from its original position in the bladder? The bladder is for sure in Rishus Ayochid.
What's the bladder?
It's the intestines. Where's the urine comes from the intestines?
The urine goes in the bladder and then it goes out.
So the bladder is for sure inside Rishus Ayochid. The orifice is in Rishus Horabim. So we go by Basar Akira, we follow the dislodgement, or we follow Basar Yitziazin, or do we go by the exit? If we follow the bladder, then he's in Rishus Ayochid, urinating to Rishus Horabim. But if we follow the orifice, he's in Rishus Horabim. What's the problem? But Gemara ends off with Tekel. Let the question remain. Eliyahu will come and answer that question.
That's the first one.
And similarly, one may not expectorate from one domain to another. No spitting, heavy-duty spitting, from one reshut to another. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The rule in our Mishnah that saliva is considered detached from the body as soon as it collects in one's mouth, even before it has been swirled around in the mouth in preparation for exploitation. The Gemara points out a contradiction between the ruling of Rabbi Yehuda and one given by him in a different Mishnah. Don't they use this terminology for when they want to get if somebody committed a crime and you went to another country
That's,
and you
a different state. That's,
and you're asking them to arrest, let's say it's not committed a crime and he flew to Morocco.
right.
He was able to escape, so now he's there. So there's the government, it knows that he's there, but they're making
They
a,
make them get a.
it doesn't call exportation.
Repatriation.
Expatriation, yeah.
Expatriation.
That's it.
Every remedy, Rabbi, that I took in my life to take out the thing
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
it's expectorate.
Yeah.
It says in the
Yeah,
remedy.
you get
Expectorate.
Robitussin or whatever.
Yeah, expectorate.
Right. What about to get rid of people that are illegal immigrants? You want to send them back? What is it called? Deportation, right?
Deportation.
No, exportation.
Expulsion, but they're not supposed. They're trespassing. They shouldn't.
Deportation.
So, Rabbi considers saliva to be detached from one's mouth, even though one did not first swirl it around in one's mouth. But we have learned in the Mishnah, if one was eating a cake of teruma figs with soiled, unwashed hands, and he put his hand into his mouth to take out a small stone, and thereby touch the figs. So he somehow was able to put the figs into his mouth without touching them, because the figs of teruma, because his hands were dirty. But then, if he realizes something in his mouth, he won't take it out. So by taking out the stone in his mouth, the foreign object that is in his mouth, he might come to touch the figs that are in his mouth. Rabbi Meir rules that the figs become tameh. As a result, even the saliva in one's mouth is capable of rendering food susceptible to tumor contamination. Meaning the saliva is like wetting the
liquid, liquid.
yeah.
Okay, I got it.
So it makes it susceptible. Rabbi Yossi rules that the figs are tahor, saliva that is still in one's mouth is considered part of one's body and does not have the status of a liquid to render food susceptible to tumor contamination. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer, hipech bo tome, lo hipech bo tahor. If he had swirled the saliva around in his mouth, the figs are tome, but if he had not, then the figs are tahor. Saliva is considered a part of one's body until one swirls it in one's mouth in preparation of ejecting it. And only at that point does it attain the status of a liquid capable of rendering food susceptible to tumor contamination. This is a contradiction to Rabbi Yehuda's statement in our Mishnah, which implies that as soon as saliva collects in one's mouth, it is not considered a part of the body, even before it has been swirled around. We have to revert their opinions. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion has changed. He originally ruled in our Mishnah that saliva is considered detached as soon as it collects in one's mouth, but subsequently retracted his position and ruled that first it must be swirled around. Actually, you do not have to reverse Rabbi Yehuda's statement, because what we are dealing with here in our Mishnah, in the Mishnah, not with a person's saliva, but with his phlegm, what you said before. Unlike saliva, phlegm is ready for ejection as soon as it collects in one's mouth. Maybe the person was coughing. So the Brisa, however, discusses regular saliva. It first must be swirled around. If phlegm collected in one's mouth, one may not walk for Amis and Shusarabim before disposing of it. Now, does this Brisa not refer also to saliva which collects in one's mouth? Rabbi Yehuda rules that in this Brisa that not only phlegm but even saliva is considered independent of the body as soon as it collects in the mouth, and therefore contradicts Rish Lakish's assertion that saliva must be first swirled around. The Gemara defends Rish Lakish's explanation, Lo yikicho v'nislash. The Brisa refers only to phlegm which collected saliva, however, must first be swirled around according to Rabbi Yehuda. Shlakish's explanation is again challenged. Vatanya Rabbi Yehuda Imer kicho shenislash v'chen roki shenislash. If phlegm collected and similarly if saliva collected in one's mouth, lo yalach da adam zat she'orik. One may not walk for amis in the Reshus Harabim until one expectorates. In this Bait, Rabbi Yehuda explicitly mentions saliva and states that it is considered to be independent of the body as soon as it collects in the mouth, even before being swirled around. The Bait thus contradicts Rish Lakish's assertion to the contrary. Rather, the correct explanation is the one that was given originally. The explanation given by Rabbi Yochanan that at first Rabbi Yehuda held that saliva is considered independent as soon as it collects in one's mouth, and later he ruled that it first must be swirled around. If one does this type of coughing up phlegm in the presence of his teacher, he is liable to death at the hand of heaven. For the verse says, all those who hate me, the Torah, love death. Proverbs 8:36. Al tikra lemesanai. Do not read this as it is written lemesanai ela lemasniai. What's the difference between mesanai and masniai? Mesanai is those who hate me. Masniai is those who cause others to hate me. If a Torah student acts in such a vulgar manner, people will disparage Torah students in general, and thus he causes the Torah to be hated. But the Gemara says, but he is coughing. What do you want from him? He's honest. His honest is it's against his. It's not like he's doing it purposely, but he was compelled to cough it up. One who has phlegm in his mouth
go out of the room
as a result of cold or some other sickness must eject it. We are discussing one who coughed up phlegm into his mouth and then spat it out in front of his teacher. This is an act of deserving of dire punishment as much as he could have turned aside or else coughed up the phlegm into a cloth.
We had people here that cough like crazy. They have to run out when you're davening.
Yeah.
Rabbi, I heard a rabbi saying that we have the power. We don't know. When you open our mouth, you can put the air hot or cold. The ability we have inside. If you open the mouth, you put air.
It's called exhale.
Yeah, and if you close your mouth, you can make a fresh air, cold air.
Oh, wow.
We have this ability inside.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So the next Mishnah is Lo yamid odom b'shusayach Reshus Harabim. Person may not stand in Reshus HaYochid in private domain, bend forward and drink in Reshus Harabim. Maybe sticking his head out of the window and into Reshus Harabim, and then drinking. So his body is in Reshus HaYochid, but his head is in Reshus Harabim. What happens if there's a long straw and it goes outside to the well and you're drinking?
That's a good one.
The cup is outside of the window. That's Reshus Harabim. And you're drinking in your Reshus HaYochid. That's the case. So Yam Vidal Reshus HaYochid is to Reshus Harabim.
You're transferring. You're making the.
Right.
Yeah,
You are transporting.
They said not. You can't do it.
Right. Reshus Harabim is to Reshus HaYochid, or vice versa. Ela im ken, but that's the only way to do it. Unless he brings his head and most of his body into the domain which he is drinking. In this position, he is unlikely to forget and remove the cup from its domain. The same applies to a case of wine press. Yeah, obviously the Gemara will explain to us exactly what's happening with the wine press. So the former clause, the previous Mishnah, follows the view of the sages that one is permitted to handle object in one domain while standing in a different domain. And the latter part, the latter clause, our Mishnah follows the opinion of Rabbi Meir, rules that it is forbidden to do so. It is unreasonable that two anonymous clauses of the Mishnah in such close proximity to each other follow the opinion of different Tanoim. So our Mishnah refers to object that he needs, and thus in accordance with everyone's opinion, since he has an immediate need for the water he is drinking, even the rabbis concede that a rabbinic decree is appropriate to safeguard against the possibility that he may bring it into the domain in which he stands. What is the law in regard to a karmelis? Is it permissible to stand in a karmelis and drink in Rishus HaYochid or Rishus HaRabim, and vice versa? Amar Abaye, it is the same. The restrictive law that applies to the biblical domain also applies to rabbinic domain of karmelis. Amar Rabba Gufa Gezerah. The law of karmelis is itself only a rabbinic decree. And we are to arise and legislate another rabbinic decree to protect this rabbinic decree. From where do I derive my ruling? I derive it from the Mishnah taught. What the Mishnah taught, and the same applies in the case of a wine press. Presumably, this means that one may not stand in Rishus HaRabim, lean over a wine press and drink wine from it with a vessel. However, so as not to be repetition of the first clause, the wine press refers to here must be a karmelis rather than a Rishus HaYochid. This is a proof, therefore, that one may not stand in Rishus HaRabim and drink in a karmelis. Rabbi said that this clause refers to the subject of Meiser and is not related to the laws of Shabbos at all. So said Rav Sheshes. And the same applies in the case of a wine press, referred to the subject of Meiser. What's the case of the wine press? The gas, the snan, shoisin ala gas. For we learned in a Mishnah, one may drink wine over the wine press. Ben bechamin uven betzoinon. For to whether the wine was diluted with hot water or with cold water, and one is exempt from tithing it because he's still over the wine press. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir holds that since one is drinking over the wine press itself, it is considered a casual manner of drinking, and one is exempt from tithing the wine. Rabbi Eliezer about Tzaddik obligates one to tithe the wine that one had diluted, even if one drinks it over the wine press itself. He said, you still have to give tithing. The very fact that he dilutes the wine makes it a formal manner of drinking. The sages say he's under obligation to tithe the wine that was diluted with hot water, but he is exempt from tithing wine that was mixed with cold water because he could pour back whatever remains into the wine press. So Mishnah follows the view of Rabbi Meir that drinking untithed wine directly over a wine press is permitted. And it teaches that one's head and most of one's body must be over the winepress for this leniency to apply. Otherwise, we are concerned that he bring the wine to where he is standing and drink it there, which is forbidden without maser, without tithing. A person standing in Shus Harabim may hold up a vessel in the air and catch water that is falling from a gutter. The gutter being lower than 10 tfachim from the ground. So that's what kolet odom. He puts a vessel and he's now capturing the water that are flowing from a gutter. But it's dealing with under 10 tfachim, and from the drain pipe, one may drink in any manner. One may even place one's mouth or a vessel directly to the pipe itself and drink the water.
Rabbi, according to this, you cannot take the water from the rain in a cup because it's above 10 tfachim, correct?
Directly from the rain.
Yeah, on Shabbat.
You mean put the cup on the ground and let it
No,
rain
on your,
into
even in
into
your
the cup?
even in your hand.
Let's see. The Mishnah might. The Gemara might be touching this. Because what would be the difference between
Gutter.
catching it through the gutter or directly? Let's see. Koilet ein ava mitzoruf. Mishnah implies that catching the water in mid-air as it falls from the gutter is indeed permitted, but pressing one's mouth or a vessel to the gutter itself is not. Meaning, already we're telling us you can use a kli, a vessel, but not directly drink with your mouth. My time. Why is it forbidden to take water directly from the gutter? We're dealing with a gutter that is less than 3 tfachim from the roof of the building. And the rule, anything less than 3 tfachim from a roof has the same status as the roof itself. Therefore, since the roof is a reshus hayochid, the gutter is also considered a reshus hayochid. Consequently, a person in the reshus harabim who takes water directly from the gutter is guilty of transferring from reshus hayochid to reshus harabim. The Gemara adduces a baita in support of Nachman.
Oh, sorry.
The Gemara adduces a baita in support of Nachman's contention that anything within 3 tfachim of a roof has the same status as the roof itself. Tanya nami achi, medodom b'shus hayochid magbiya yod l'mal masol tfachim. A person may stand b'shus hayochid on top of a roof, magbiya yod l'mal masol tfachim, and raise his hand more than 10 tfachim above the ground. The focus mishloisha samuch legag v'koiled, to a spot that is less than 3 tfachim from the roof of a neighboring house, and catch water as it falls through the air. Uvilvad sheloi yetzoref, provided he does not press his hand against the wall at that height to collect water, because anything that is within 3 tfachim of a roof has the same status as the roof itself. So I think over here it answers your question, because it says this case is a person is standing in reshus hayochid. It says he raises his hand more than 10 tfachim above the ground and koilet, and now he is taking water in, whether from rain or from a gutter. It says he raises his hand more than 10 tfachim above the ground to a spot that is less than 3 tfachim from the higher roof of a neighboring house, and catch water as it falls through the air. seemingly is allowed to do it, provided he does not press his hand against the wall at that height to collect water, because anything that is within 3 tefachim of a roof has the same status of the roof itself. So if you look at number 10, it says if he were to do so, he would be in violation of a rabbinic ban on transferring between one Rishus HaYochid and another whose owners had not joined in an Eruv. We'll go back to the Gemara. The Gemara adduces another bite in support of Rabbi Nachman Tanya Idoch. Leyam Idod Rishus HaYochid v'yigbia yodei lemala ma'asot tefachim. Person may not stand in a private domain on top of a roof and raise his hand more than 10 tefachim above the ground, lefoches megimel samuch legag v'yitzoref, to a spot less than 3 tefachim from the higher roof of a neighboring house, and press his hand against the wall. Aval koile tu v'shoisid. It says he's allowed to. However, he may catch the water as it falls through the air and drink it. So you're allowed to go like this and catch water and drink them.
From the rain.
That's what it says. Koile tu v'shoisid. However, he may catch the water as it falls through the air and drink it. The Gemara quotes the last clause of the Mishnah and discusses from a drain pipe. One may drink in any manner. One may even place one's mouth or a vessel directly to the pipe itself and drink the water. Tana taught, if the opening of the pipe is a big pipe, it has 4 by 4, maybe 20 inches, one is forbidden to drink directly from it. Why? Because that is like transferring from one domain to another domain. Since the pipe is 4 tefachim wide, has the status of a carmelis. Therefore, one who takes water from it directly is guilty of transferring from a carmelis to Rishus HaRabim. The case in our Mishnah is of a pipe that is less than 4 tefachim, and that's why the Mishnah permits it. Next Mishnah. Boya b'Rishus HaRabim v'chulosu gavoyu tefachim. If there is a water hole in the Rishus HaRabim and its embankment is 10 tefachim high, okay? One who is in a nearby Rishus HaYochid may draw water from the water hole on the Shabbos via a window that is above it. So he would lower a bucket to the hole, to the water hole, raise the bucket, and drink the water. If there is a trash heap in the Rishus HaRabim 10 tefachim high, one may pour water onto it on the Shabbos from a window that is above it. Instead of going down your building to the trash, you're allowed to pour the water directly outside the window. Seemingly. Let's see what the Gemara says. So really the Mishnah gives us two scenarios. You have it there, no?
Yeah, I didn't fall.
Oh, Toldot. You have to get Toldot. We have Toldot here?
No.
Have to have it somewhere. I bought it.
Hey, I have it right here with us. Okay. Oh,
No, but it's gonna be in the next one.
don't worry.
No, we need it for afterwards.
Let's move a little more.
Maybe they put it in the top. I have it in the Sheamus.
Hold those.
Yeah. Check the top ones. It might be told this. What does it say?
I'm looking.
There you go. Let me open it for him.
We're gonna go to Rabbi Naftali after this.
Say?
We go over to the other place.
Oh, for chocolates, yeah. What time do they start?
8:30. So we're here like 8:15. They don't start on time, that's fine, you see that.
Maybe I'll join you.
Okay, fine. I have a spot for you.
You started the Mishnah, yeah?
Yeah. So we said two scenarios in the Mishnah. You have the boil that is 10 tfachim, and you're allowed to fill water from the window, and then also pour into a trash heap from your window. But my asking now, what type of a situation are we dealing with here? If you say we are dealing with a water hole that is close to the nearby Rishus HaYochid, okay, there is less than 4 tfachim between them. Lama lichul yud. Why do I need an embankment that is 10 tfachim high? Since the intervening space is too narrow to be considered a part of the Rishus HaRabim, meaning the water hole is so close to another Rishus HaYochid that I can't really call it Rishus HaRabim. It should be permissible to draw water from the hole to a nearby Rishus HaYochid even if no embankment is there. So why do I need the embankment? Amar Ravuna, we're dealing with a case with a water hole that was 4 handbreadth away, I guess 4 tfachim, away from the wall of a Rishus HaYochid. Okay, with time of the and the fact that there is an embankment of 10 tfachim high that prevents the bucket from entering the domain of Rishus HaRabim. So the embankment, the rim of the pit, really is like walls around it. So imagine there is a hole over here. This is the ground. There is a hole here, and this is the embankment. So when you lower the bucket, it kind of is securing it not to go into Rishus HaRabim. It keeps it, like locks it in, that you can keep it in Rishus, whatever the pit is considered, Karmeli. So, but let's say it's Rishus HaYochid that you're owning the pit, which is in Rishus HaRabim. The fact that there's embankment, it would protect it from staying in the airway of the pit. That's what he says. If there would be no embankment, it would be forbidden because one thereby be carrying from a Rishus HaYochid to another Rishus HaYochid via Rishus HaRabim. You could even say that the water hole was close to the wall, with no Rishus HaRabim between them, and yet the Mishnah specifies that embankment is required because the case here is of a water hole that is less than 10 tfachim deep, but that measures 10 tfachim together with the embankment. So the embankment makes it 10 tfachim. Hakamash. Tana is teaching us the voil v'chol yosoi mitzarfin asor. It comes to tell us that the hole together with the embankment can combine to complete the requisite height of 10 tfachim. Then the next case of the Mishnah, Ashvu b'Rishus HaRabim, a trash heap in the Rishus HaRabim, one may pour water onto it. We are not concerned that the trash heap might someday be partially removed at its height, diminished to less than 10 tfachim. Why are you allowed to pour water into a trash heap that is higher than 10 tfachim? Because it's not Rishus HaRabim, it's Mokim P'tur. If it's higher than 10 tfachim, it's considered a Mokum P'tur, an exempt area. So if it's exempt area, you're allowed to pour from Rishus HaYochid to exempt area. And it says now that we are not concerned that one day somehow this pile, this trash heap will be decreased to a less than 10, and then if you will pour the water, you'll pour from Rishus HaYochid to Rishus HaRabim, not from Rishus HaYochid to a Mokum P'tur. He said, not concerned, but there was once an incident concerning a certain alleyway, Movei, and it had 2 openings. One side was terminated at the sea, and the other side terminated by a trash heap. And the matter came before Rabbi for a decision on whether or not it was permitted to carry in that specific alleyway. So Rabbi did not rule. He refused to rule on the matter. one way or another. Why? Heter lo yomar boy. He did not state a permit regarding carrying in it. Why? The chayshinan shema tinot el ashpo, because we are concerned that the trash heap might be removed. V'yale ayom silten, or that the sea might bring up sediment, creating an area of silt against the present wall of the sea, thereby depriving the mavoi of that wall. So the fact that you have the ocean on one side, Rabbi did not want to rule because of the option of a silt forming. Isur lo yomar boy, but he did not state prohibition regarding carrying. Why? Because it's still a mavoi, there's still mechitzas, because partitions do currently exist. So,
does it make sense that we're worried about what might happen a year from now, 10 years from now? Silt is going to be brought in, and there's not going to be.
well, you have ocean is more. I mean, it happens with oceans. You have waves, and
In a
it
couple
brings
of
in.
days. But right now, it's the case where there's a heap and there's a seawall.
I just looked at the property on the beach, and that a few weeks ago, it has a private beach, has entrance to the beach, and you see access with, you go at least 20, 30 feet to the water. And now because of we had the last 2 weeks, there was a tropical storm. I went there, there was no beach. There's just water. So you get all the way to it's like a bearing wall, like a seawall that stops the water. And you see stairs, stairs and water going straight into the water. The stairs are submerged with water. So with oceans, it's a tricky situation, and I guess they saw it. Now I see why. Now I see why Hashem showed it to me, so I can answer you.
What's silt?
Silt is
Like dirt. It's
very light, fine dirt. Or sand.
What about those green shrubs that it brings also? Sometimes you see the seaweed, yeah. It brings it also. Sometimes you can't walk in the beach because of all the seaweed.
Yeah. And in a few weeks you'll come back
And it's clear as if nothing there.
And the sand will be back.
Rabbi knew what he was doing. See? But the Gemara still challenges it. It says, well, one second, there's mechitzas. And if there is mechitzas, then it's not, it should be a problem. While carrying in this mother was technically permissible, Rabbi would not sanction it for fear that even if these changes were to occur, people would continue to carry in the mother as they had been accustomed to do previously. From this incident, it is apparent that carrying cannot be sanctioned if its permissibility is contingent upon the height of a trash heap, inasmuch as the trash heap could be removed. So the Gemara says, Leikashio, this is not a difficulty, Had Yochid, Had Rabbi, because this case, the one that came before Rabbi was a trash heap owned by an individual. Had Rabbi, whereas this case, the one of our Mishnah was a trash heap owned by many people. A publicly owned trash heap is much less likely to be removed than a privately owned one. So a public trash heap is usually only increase in height, not like if you pass by the turnpike, you have these land mines. What do they call them? That they put all the landfills. Yeah.
Landmines.
Yeah, landfills. Yeah. I think the landfill eventually becomes a landmine, no?
Well, with the gas.
With the gas.
Yeah, they put pipes in and they capture the gas and they use it.
It's good, yeah. In Singapore, they're very sophisticated in these things. They create energy immediately. They show you the process of how your garbage can turns into energy.
Yeah.
Okay, Ilan she'amesach halaot, a tree that forms a covering over the ground. Branches emanate from all the way around its trunk at a height of at least 10 tefachim and extend downward, enclosing the area below. Okay. If its branches are not 3 tefachim above the ground, they descend to within 3 tefachim of the ground. Metaltalim tachto. One may carry beneath it, since the branches form valid partition. Interesting. The branches form valid partitions. If its root protrude, sometimes you see those roots that they destroy the roads by protruding upwards out of the ground to a height of 3 tefachim above the ground, which is about 15 inches. Lo yeshev aleh, and one may not sit on them, because a root of such proportions is classified as a tree and is therefore included in the prohibition on making use of a tree on Shabbos.
I had that I had a tree by my sidewalk, and the sidewalk was coming up. I was always afraid the city was going to come and make me do something there with.
Wow.
Yeah. I got out of there before it happened.
Yeah. Amar Ravuna Breder Rav Yeshua en metaltem v'yosem b'beis Hosayim. We may not carry in the area enclosed by the branches if it exceeds 2 beis seah. We said 2 beis seah is 50 by 50 amis, or 5,000 square amis.
It's a big tree.
Yeah. Ever seen such a big tree? The Gemara says, even if the tree was originally planted for the purpose of creating a living area under its branches. That's what they say. They do a tree house. My timer, what is the difference from other areas that were enclosed for residential purposes? Mishum da'avi dirosh tashmish al avir, because it constitutes a dwelling that is used solely for the sake of the open space outside of it, like a Florida room, which is common here. Actually, you can see in the pictures there's interesting branches sticking out. And any dwelling that is used solely for the sake of the open space outside of it, and metaltim v'yosem b'beis Hosayim, one may not carry within it if it exceeds 5,000 square amis. Here you can see it. So Bruchim Tiu, let's learn some Hasidus.